The Attorney General, there's a Deputy Attorney General who expressed these concerns earlier today, are also very strong in their conviction that it is indeed the case that the OSP is frustrating this process and that there's an avenue for Kenneth ศ์to be tried in absentia. The OSP has ruled that out even today. There's no room for trial in absentia. We'll hear from one person who strongly backs that call for a trial in absentia. Kofi Bento is private legal practitioner, is going to be joining us shortly. The Office of Special Prosecutor has denied reports that it is at loggerheads with the Office of the Attorney General over the extradition of the former Finance Minister Kenneth ศ์to Ghana to face prosecution. The OSP assured that it would rather work with the Attorney General to ensure lawful prosecution of Kenneth ศ์. Now, this follows the revelations earlier today by the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Shremsai, that the AG's office still hasn't received the docket from the OSP on this Kenneth ศ์case. Let's take a listen to Dr. Shremsai, and then Dennis Boberwadam Esquire is going to be joining me in a bit. But take a look at this.
Mr. Kenneth ศ์is a subject of a number of criminal investigations, right? I think the one that is popular is the one that the OSP is conducting. And also, that is the one that we are made to believe is in an advanced stage where extradition will be required. And indeed, the OSP has already put the person on red alerts, Interpol red alerts. What it means is that it's a notice to the whole world that this person is a wanted man. But the Interpol alert is not an extradition, procedure. So if we really want the person to come, we need to make an extradition request to where we believe he is, which is the US. Now, this is what, and listen to me carefully on this. We are the only authority, that's the Attorney General Office, we are the only authority that can make extradition. But we need a docket from, an investigative docket from the OSP to be able to make this extradition request. As of today, we still do not have a docket from the OSP. We have made several requests to the OSP, written letters, written demands to the OSP, asking that now that you've announced to the world that you are ready to have this person extradited, and there have been communication to that effect that even we've seen communication to the effect that the docket is ready and it's only the Attorney General that can make the. So we have been asking for the docket for a couple of, I think about 2 months now. We still do not have the dockets from the OSP, and so without the dockets, you cannot go to the American authorities and say this is the person we want him. No, you need to show because when they are asking for people to be extradited to the United States, they bring the full docket of as if they are going to court, and then we take that docket to court for the court to see whether there's really merit for bringing the person down. We have to do the same thing. We also have to take a full docket of all the evidence and what we believe the law, and then we take it to the United States authorities, and they will process the extradition and bring.
Oh, that's Dr. Shremsai there, quite clear in his words, and that raises for some questions and concerns about where we are with this Kenneth ศ์case. Hearing from the Deputy Attorney General, for that matter, Dennis Boberwadam Esquire is with me, and you've been following this case right from this morning when we got this revelation. It sets a certain signal, does it not? This is not the first time we've had the Attorney General and the OSP, and this time there's no Yoko in it, but
not at all. Yes,
going at each other, or
we have walked this path before, except this is with different persons now occupying the same offices. I mean, it's still the same office of the Special Prosecutor, but this time around, in the office of the Attorney General, you have a different person in there.
True.
But to put the matters in their proper context, I mean, this is not really the first time this issue is coming up. It had come up already on social media with correspondence between the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Office of the Chief of Staff, the Attorney General. And those correspondence, as we saw them, seemed to suggest that there was some request made on the OSP to give certain documents, just so we don't sound so legalese and use dockets. Yeah. Just say documents that will facilitate this extradition process. The extradition basically is how they can get former Finance Minister Ken Ofori back to Ghana to face the law. But what we heard from the Deputy Attorney General is more like now giving more meat to what we had already read on social media, or giving more veracity to it.
True.
And he was quite clear and instructive that yes, they've made requests, but they still do not have these documents. And he begins by saying that this is a case that a certain sense was created, and that for them to ask for those documents to help, and they are still not in fact, as at the time he was granting the interview, he said as at the time he was speaking, they still did not have those documents. But of course,
this was the request they put 2 months ago.
Yes. But of course, the Office of the Special Prosecutor hadn't spoken on this ever since the matter came up on social media. But when the Deputy Attorney General spoke on the matter, then some responses started coming in. First, we saw on the personal Facebook page of the Director of Strategy and Communications, Sami Darko. He had written at length to address the matter. Then shortly after that, there was a statement on the letterhead of the Office of the Special Prosecutor itself addressing, substantially, the two statements, both on Sami Darko's page and then on the OSP's letterhead, carry the same information. And that's to the effect that they wanted to put matters in their proper context. And the first thing they sought to do was to dismiss that seeming suggestion that there was some kind of friction between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and then the Attorney General's office in respect of the extradition processes involving the former finance minister. In doing so, they recount and admitting that indeed those correspondence that we saw on social media indeed were true, except to also express the fear that it compromises their own security, and to also say that they can say for a fact that those documents or those letters between the offices of the OSP, Chief of Staff, Attorney General, the leakage of those letters did not come from the OSP, and they are concerned that such leakages compromise the quality of work they'll be doing. But what's important is that in that particular, in the correspondence, they try to give timelines as to what really happened at what time, and the reason for which the Attorney General still does not have the docket as he or as the office has requested.
So
and they basically make the point.
They're essentially making the point about they not frustrating the work.
So that the OSP does not sacrifice excellence. This talks about how speedy the Attorney General office wanted the docket, and how the OSP also wanted to take its time to do the work, just so it does not sacrifice the quality of the work for its for expediency.
Did they say anything about the extradition process? Yeah.
Yes. Of course, they had to indicate that this whole extradition thing was based on the investigations by the OSP, just to say that they own it. So there's no point frustrating something that they themselves have actually started. And this is what they say in parts. That the OSP does not sacrifice excellence. No, let's go back a bit, because that's where they begin talking about the frustration aspect. Yes, that the OSP is not frustrating and will not frustrate its own extradition request. Therefore, there's absolutely no reason for the Attorney General's department to feel frustrated if that is the case in respect of the matter it is involved in. Then he goes on to now talk about the fact that the OSP does not sacrifice excellent and professional investigation on perceived frustration over a response. The extradition process is a multi-agency procedure involving several sequential steps and statutory actors. Now, mind you, Alfred, they make the case that along the line, while that engagement was ongoing, the OSP had to carry out some exercise at the offices of SML, in which they discovered some new material that they needed to analyze and evaluate. And that's when the Office of the Attorney General reached out on a second, making a request again for the dockets. They explained to them that the dockets will have to delay because they still were making the analysis of that material that they gathered in respect of SML. And that for them is the reason for which the docket delayed. But of course, they did concede that that engagement had been ongoing. Even beyond the written letters, there had been some other conversations between the Deputy Attorney General and then that's of the Office of the special prosecutor.
I see. It's interesting because you talk about no hint of what institutional cooperation breakdown, but then again you have the Deputy Attorney General raising that concern about how long it has taken for them to have the documents they have been asking for in this particular regard. That assurance of the continuous collaboration or cooperation is important because you see, it is for the greater good.
Precisely.
The Attorney General's office is the mother the office for the OSP.
They are the central authority when it comes to this.
They approve their budgets and so on. I mean, the OSP derives its authority from the ages.
And this is even more crucial because when you look at what we are talking about, this extradition process, the Attorney General's office is the central authority. And that was why when the OSP made that request on the Chief of Staff, the sequence of communication was that the Chief of Staff referred the matter to the Attorney General. Attorney General now notifies the Office of the Special Prosecutor that, yes, I have received your extradition requests. Kindly furnish me with further information, which included some officers that they required from the OSP to join in and also the dockets. The officers were assigned, all right, but the docket did not come based on that explanation they gave along the line that they had discovered or they had done some search and seizures at the office of SML, for which they were still working on. But what's important is that even though you don't find it expressly in the official documents from the OSP, when you read what Sami Dako, who is the Director of Communications and Strategy at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, put out, he says that he is aware that this docket is near completion and hopefully it will be submitted within this week to facilitate the process of extradition. So if that's anything to go by, which of course he is the man who has been engaging us all through all this time, it means that within this week, that docket in question should be given to the Office of the Special Prosecutor for the processes to progress, Alfred.
But you also would find those who take the position that it's interesting that today that the Deputy Attorney General has publicly stated this information of almost 2 months ago. This request of this same document 2 months has been pending, and the day that the Deputy Attorney General speaks publicly, we have the information that that document will be available this week. Be that as it may, that's some good development.
And we are looking forward to it.
We'll look forward to it before the end of the week and see how things play out. But then again, Kofi Bento is joining us on Zoom right now. He's the Vice President of Imani Africa. And Dennis, stay with me because there's some very important timelines to this case that we'll have to run through. And then also, Kofi Bento is a private legal practitioner for the purposes of this conversation. Mr. Bento, thank you for joining us. You have been consistent in your position that if the OSP is, quote unquote, in your words, serious about prosecuting this case or getting Ken Ofori-Atta to answer for the said charges against him, you would rather recommend the OSP takes the option of trial in absentia. That if Ken Ofori-Atta is not coming, then the process should begin. The OSP has reiterated that that is not a path they are going to take, Mr. Bento, even in the midst of all this, with the Deputy Attorney General stating this frustration.
Well, if you're asking, so I hear you say the OSP says they will not consider a trial in absentia.
Yes.
And I hear you ask if that is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. My answer is simple, and indeed, I have said this long ago, many months ago. Unfortunately, I was vilified for it. The OSP is not a law unto himself. All right? And they should appreciate that they are creatures of law. They have to ask reasons, whether you agree or not, is not able to be here. And there is sufficient provision within the law for you to proceed in the absence of the person. Months now, in fact, almost a year now since the government took office, we keep hearing things about this particular case. And I have sat down to say, I don't see the sincerity of the OSP in trying to pursue this thing. There's a difference between persecution and prosecution. There's a difference between trying to find if somebody is guilty or not under law and trying to put them before the public, disgrace them, and have a... And sometimes I feel like the OSP wants this public spectacle of Ofori arriving, he being arrested and questioned, and the hula baloo that goes back and forth with it, maybe hoping that people come and say that Yoko or something. I mean, that kind of theatrics is not what we should be looking for. And when I made the point earlier, my point was that there is no impediment in the way of the OSP to try Ofori if he has a case. So the question is, does he have a case or not? And if he has a case, they should just prosecute and prosecute in absentia. In any case, Ofori's lawyers are here. They are speaking to the OSP. They are prepared to cooperate with the OSP. They are prepared to be in court to defend Ofori. The only thing that the OSP doesn't seem to have, which he's absolutely bent on, is the presence of Ofori. And it must be noted that the presence of Ofori is not necessary for his prosecution. In fact, he can be present and refuse to talk. So I don't get the point of what the OSP is trying to do. And that is why I raised the point that I raised earlier. I said that if I was lawyer of Ofori, or let me put it this way, anybody who is lawyer of Ofori, if he is a good lawyer, will not advise Ofori to come to Ghana, because the OSP clearly does not look like they are serious in a proper prosecution, because they can go ahead. It looks like they want Ofori to just come to Ghana for them to just make a show of him for whatever reason. And you must appreciate that the man says he's sick. So sick that he's undergoing all kinds of surgeries and medical observation. So why do you want to do that? There's a process. Use it. They don't have a right to say they will not proceed in absentia simply because Ofori refuses to come. By law, if a crime has been committed and they have a case under this circumstance, they have I agree with the frustration of the Attorney General. Thinking about the OSP law, we thought we were going to be the Attorney General still reserves the ultimate right of prosecution. He has handed such to the OSP. In this particular matter, I think he can take certain steps to assert himself, because even though the OSP is independent, the Attorney General is the one that extends their authority to the OSP. They should be able to sort this out, behind, closed doors. But I totally disagree with the OSP on this matter.
See, and you've been consistent on this, and the fact that if they're serious, as you have just indicated, a trial in absentia is one that they should immediately be looking at in the midst of all what's happening. And then we're on the Interpol's side now. Ofori is still there, right? As on the red notice.
Yes, so this
correct?
Is live page. When you look at it closely, you find that Ofori is still there. Ofori, Kenneth Nanayao, 65 years old, Ghana, and this is a live page.
There have been a few others who have been added.
Yes.
Over the period.
Yeah.
Because previously, when you go on this red notice page, it was just Ofori. Now you have.
He used to be on the first page, but now he's on the 5th or 6th page. So, a lot more have been added. So you hear the Deputy Attorney General say that, putting somebody on the Interpol red notice in itself does not mean much, except they're able to carry through the extradition processes, which they are looking forward to having the docket from the Office of the Attorney General, from the Office of the Special Prosecutor, so that they can go on with that particular process.
See, now, Adam Senano is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Senano, you hear, thank you for joining us this evening. You hear Kofi Bento make the point strongly, and he's been consistent about this, that if the OSP is serious about doing this, getting Ofori to answer questions for the said charges he has slapped on him, then a trial in absentia should